up pretty much forever. The sleeplessness, the lights on all night. You know, there were the horrible hygiene conditions, the insanitary conditions. They wanted to break you. How close did they get?
Everything in that place is designed to break you. And you're deliberately dehumanized because they want you to make a false confession in interrogation. And they want you to tell them everything you know. I can't say that I was never broken. At least I felt broken many, many times. I felt complete and utter despair. There was one moment, actually, maybe almost 2 years, that's 18 months after my arrest, when I heard that the diplomatic deal that I was pinning all of my hopes on had fallen through 3 days before it was supposed to be enacted. I remember lying on the floor of my cell and falling into such a deep well of despair that I couldn't physically move my limbs. My brain was sending signals to my arms and legs, and I could not move and enact those signals. That's how despairing I was. You know, my despair was so deep, it had a physical response. So I can't say that they never broke me or they never sent me to such places. But what I can say is that it never lasted. I always found some sort of wellspring of inner strength to pick myself up again, whether that be a day later or hours later or whenever it may be, and continue to struggle to survive and find some sort of tiny fleck of hope I could cling to.
It took the Iranian authorities pretty much 10 months to actually put you before a court, convict you and sentence you, and then they sentenced you to 10 years for espionage. I'm not even going to bother asking you whether you were indeed a spy, because I think that's sort of ridiculous given who you are and your background and the way you've told your story. But nonetheless, I do have to ask you, have you figured out why they targeted you and why they did this to you?
Yes, I knew from the first few days of my arrest why they targeted me. In fact, they told me. That was initially because of my connections with Bahrainis, actually, my research about Bahrain. And I got really, really unlucky. In the book, I elaborate in further detail, but basically, a Bahraini guy who I met in Stafford, which was the location of the university from I was attending. I interviewed him informally. I had a few informal chats with him about Bahrain, but about my research internship in Bahrain. And this individual, who did not at all seem to me to be sympathetic to a hardline Islamist worldview, he was linked to the IRGC, to the Revolutionary Guards, in some way. And he flagged me as suspicious with them or alerted them to my presence. So I popped up on their radar because of this individual. And I think my guess would be he had a pre-existing relationship with them. Perhaps he was an informer on the Bahraini community within Iran, acting for the security services to inform on his own people in Hong, because there were a lot of Bahrainis in Iran for various reasons. He was a seminary student, so he wasn't a refugee from Bahrain or anything like that. He was doing clerical studies in Hong, because of course Hong is a centre of religious, it's sort of the Vatican City of Iran in a way. So this individual is responsible for my arrest. And they told me that even on the first night.
804 days you eventually spent in prison, much of it in Evin, but some of it also in a public prison, a very difficult place, a long way away from Tehran. During the course of that imprisonment, you did some pretty amazing things. You did a rooftop protest, you time and again confronted guards, you screamed in their faces, you staged protests of different sorts. What did you learn about yourself in those 804 days?
I learned that I am stronger than I thought I was. I learned that I keep my head under pressure, that I can still make difficult moral decisions under pressure, that I saw others not be capable of making. I learned that I will back myself and that I have integrity. And this was really important to me, maintaining my integrity throughout. I'm not always proud of everything I did in prison, but one reason why I decided to start resisting my captors was because I understood that the whole thing was a stitch-up, and I didn't want to just be a passive victim sitting in my cell, learning from bad people. I wanted to at least stand up to those people and claw back a shred of my own integrity in doing so. So I think I have a firmer grasp of my own strength of character, and I guess that's made me a little bit more fearless.
I want to get back to that in just a moment, but just a quick word, if you would, on the diplomacy around your situation. The Australian government told you, and indeed your family back in Australia, to try to keep this quiet for a long time. They talked about quiet diplomacy being the best way out of this. You disagreed with them, but the truth is that Australia knew very little about your case for many, many months. And this is mirrored with, we've already talked about Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, the advice that was given to her by the British government and to Anousheh Ashuri and his family too. The advice always seems to be in these situations with the Iranians: keep it quiet, keep a lid on it, we'll do the diplomacy behind the scenes, trust in us, that's the best way out of this. That didn't work, did it? And are you angry that for so long you were given that advice?
I'm not angry at the Australian government because I am grateful to them for pulling off what was quite a remarkable trilateral deal, a trilateral prisoner exchange for my release.
Yeah, just to be clear about that, because we need to let our audience know, Kylie, in the end you got out because there was a de facto deal done with prisoners. A couple of Iranians held by the Thai government were suspected of involvement in terror activity in Thailand. They were released, and at the same time you were released, there was clearly some sort of deal done, brokered by Australian intelligence officials, and that got you back to Australia. But I just want to come back to this notion of quiet diplomacy works. What's your view on whether it does or not?
Well, where's the evidence that it works? In the case of Iran, and I'm not disputing that it ever works, I think we need to always approach these cases of arbitrary detention on a case-by-case basis. But in the case of Iran, which I know well, I know the stories of many others, I'm in touch with them, with their families, and I need others inside. I have yet to see an example where somebody whose case has been kept quiet has actually benefited from